you do your homework and you start following monetary policies. You start looking at the Federal Reserve. You start awakening to who the owners of the Federal Reserve and how all that happened and blah, blah, blah. You start to understand the IMF and you start to understand SDRs. And I've talked about it on the show before. We've mentioned special derivatives or SDR, which is special drawing rights, is what it's called. And it's almost like we've all been waiting for that transition from the dollar over to that. So parts of me, man, just look at it going, this is just another stage. It's just another way to take that system from the dollar over to the new SDRs that we've all been waiting for. And for a while, they kind of tried to fool us by talking about the Amero and this is going to happen in the North American Union and all that stuff, as in smoke and mirrors. But here's what I hope, Jared, and I know this is off the chart. You hate it whenever I go this far. But I hope the American people recognize that if the dollar collapses, and they begin to search for a new currency, there will be a savior, right, from the IMF who comes swooping in to say we're going to save the days with the SDRs. And I think it's the exact same thing, just on a global basis instead of on a national basis. You know, we talked about the Fed. We talked about Ron Paul. He's got his new book coming out. We know all the news is on the Fed itself, and obviously the stock market. What about gold? Because you and I briefly talked about gold, and with China, I don't think some people that are maybe been waiting to get into the gold and the silver market. Let me give you some. You can't give advice. Let Shane give you some good advice real fast. And that is, I don't see the bottom. I think we're at near the bottom on gold. I don't know if gold will be able to break much more lower than the 980 range, because it seems to me like, if anybody's paying attention, China is buying up a lot of gold. And when it gets down to that certain range, these foreign countries are buying up as much gold as possible. So if China is telling their citizens to buy gold and silver, which they are, they're educating them on a huge campaign right now that's moving through their country of Asia, educating people to buy gold and silver. So if they're propagating that, right, with this propaganda, then they're not going to allow that market to collapse and them to be embarrassed. And we're seeing that as the gold market gets down, and then boom, it jumps right back to 1,005 yesterday. It's like 980 something, and then boom, goes right back up to 1,005. So if you're thinking about gold, you know, it's a good place. I don't think there's going to be any more bottoms. I don't think you're going to have the opportunity to buy gold at 650 anymore. Would you agree?
If we ever did, you've got to do that one. But yeah, I think maybe what you're talking about is, and this is public information.
Sure,
this is out there. What you were talking about as far as China, you know, being buyers of gold. There's a story out just a while ago, and they've talked about it before. In fact, it's even been given a name. They call it the Beijing put. And what it refers to is that China is going to be a buyer of gold on these dips that we've seen in the price of it. So if the price of gold does go down, China is going to be there to be a buyer pretty much every single time. They've stated that publicly.
Wow.
And so is that what it would take to put a floor under gold? I don't know, but I mean it would sure be. That's probably the reason why it's bounced, you know, right off. It's probably just right under that, you know, $1,000 an ounce level.
Right.
It's bounced off of that, you know, several times.
Yeah, and it has, because we've seen the 7s and the 8s and they go down to the low 9s, but the last couple of times it has, like you said, made a bounce, which is a great way to talk about it. I don't know. I'm not the financial guy, so I don't know what causes that bounce to get started. I don't know who begins to sell and how all that stuff works. I've just paid attention enough to know that you got a major country like China telling their people to invest in this, and then some reports that come out to say, watch what happens whenever they try to bring gold back down. Some major force is in there buying up so much that it causes it to instantly come back up, and then they jump back out again.
Right.
And then the market stops and the gold prices stop right there.
Right.
So there's some major force out there that's holding that. And if you're a person who's been waiting to take your stuff out of the stock market and put it into precious metals, I can't think of a better time than right now. Well, you can kind of see now why, Jared, I have gold and silver dealers on the show. I mean, if you got China and other major countries setting a bottom on gold right now and not allowing it to go any lower, then it's probably a good indication for it's time for you to step into the market as well. Again, we don't suggest gold and silver as investments for you to make tons of money. They are hedges against everything else that's falling apart. So make sure you get your gold and silver from Texican Coin and Bullion Company here in Tyler in the Chase Building right across from the Tyler Mall. Again, also go by see Joe Boy's You Pull It if you need a part for your car on Highway 80 as you're heading towards White Oak just outside of Longview. Joe Boy's Towing and